What's up guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about some unlocks that you will probably want to get in RuneScape 3, but you may not have. These aren't the most common things. It's not things like getting your ancient curses or getting an enhanced Excalibur, all the sort of stuff that I've mentioned in past videos. This is stuff that is a little bit less common and things that you want to work towards, especially when doing certain things in the game. Anyway, I hope you find this useful. If you do, then make sure to leave a like, do subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you have any extra stuff that are a little bit uncommon but still very useful, drop them down in the comments below, and if there's plenty of them that I can't think of, I will chuck them in a video, maybe in part 2, and I'll use your comment on screen to say you were the one that gave that idea. Anyway, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and even if you're not new around here, check that you're subbed, because a lot of you guys aren't subbed even though you think you are. And with that being said, let's go. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to have absolutely in every case for everybody, in my opinion, is unlocking the City at St. quest. Finishing that off to get yourself Animate Dead and Smoke Cloud. There's the other spells as well, but I'm going to specifically talk about Animate Dead and Smoke Cloud because they're incredibly useful, especially as a newer player getting into things like PVM or even Slayer or just wanting to AFK some combat content. Animate Dead is incredibly broken. You definitely want it. Basically what Animate Dead does is it applies a buff to you when you're using magic tank armor. What it is going to do is give you a flat damage reduction based on the armor that you have equipped. This means that if you get hit for 1,000, it will take a number determined by the armor that you're equipped and reduce that as a flat amount, meaning that you're probably going to get hit for like 700 instead. Combining this with the fact that you are using tank armor, which has damage reduction itself already, you end up taking very little damage using things like Ganodermic armor, or if you have the money for it, even Cripplume armor. Animate Dead is an incredibly useful spell, and I would absolutely suggest getting it to everybody in the game at some point, especially if you are learning bosses and struggling with damage that you are taking. Now, it is worth mentioning as well that you shouldn't just take advantage of Animate Dead so you can face tank every mechanic in the game, which can be done in a lot of situations, but you still want to learn how to deal with mechanics even if you're using Cripplume armor and Animate Dead, because when you do this, if you're not learning mechanics properly, you will never improve. You're just going to be like, okay, I need to use Cripplume and Animate Dead for everything, whereas if you are still learning how to deal with all the mechanics, you still do the right things, use the right defensive abilities, and do the right mechanics at the right time, you are going to be improving still, and eventually you can probably come off of the armor and the Animate Dead spell. But it is useful for all things like AFKing bosses and just doing Slayer and just making life easier in a lot of situations. As for Smoke Cloud will increase the damage that you do on all combat styles by increasing the damage that your crits do. Whenever you land a critical strike on magic, your hit damage is going to increase by 15%. Whenever you land a critical strike on ranged or melee, they will increase by 6%. That is a 15% damage increase on magic for all critical hits, and a 6% damage increase for all critical hits on range and melee. However, it will also increase your hit cap when landing a critical hit as well, meaning you can hit higher as well, allowing you to output a lot more damage. Smoke Cloud is useful for all combat styles, and it is a direct damage increase. You want to be using it if you have access to it. If you don't have it, this is something you definitely want to unlock. I see a lot of people getting into PVM and doing PVM, even some higher level bosses, and not taking advantage of Smoke Cloud. If you're using it on ranged or melee, you will have to use the Ingenuity of the Human's ability to make sure that you can actually cast it, or else it will splash, but this is still absolutely worth it. It is a 2-minute buff that increases your damage, and you don't even have to do anything once you've applied it. It is there. That's all you have to do. It is absolutely worth it. Both of these are unlocked from completing the City at St. quest. So they are in together, and this is a quest line that absolutely everybody should work on at some point. Next up is one that I know for a fact many people actually haven't done, and you absolutely should do. For absolutely anyone wanting to do PVM in the Elder Godwars dungeon, whether it be the skilling boss Croesus or whether it be any of the other bosses, you are going to want to have an Enriched Pontifex Shadow Ring. Now, many of you guys probably have a regular Pontifex Shadow Ring, as you will need to do that for some of the quests. You may also have an overcharged Pontifex Shadow Ring, which you are absolutely going to want to have, which is where you take 6,000 of each resonant anima, and you talk to the person called Wehistel. I'll put it in text on screen and show you where they are as well, but you can bring it here and you can overcharge the ring at this person. That will unlock other benefits. However, when you complete Extinction, you can right click the ring and you can use the Imbue option. When you imbue it, you will get an Enriched Pontifex Shadow Ring. This is getting confusing, right? But once you've got the Enriched Pontifex Shadow Ring, you are going to get even more benefits from this, including unique drops at the Elder Godwars dungeon by 2%. With the Enriched Pontifex Shattering, you can also leave it in the bank, meaning that all of the effects are passive, you never have to use it again. This is also from the Overcharged version, but the Enriched one is what gives you the extra drops. You want to have the Enriched version. But if you're doing any of the Elder God Wars bosses, you are going to get some perks from having the Overcharged version at least. For example, Karapak's Dive will no longer stun you. It is incredibly useful. You want to have this ring overcharged and enriched from completing Extinction to get that extra drop rate. Absolutely worth it. The drop rate is only enriched by 2%, but hey, a look at the dwarves is only 1%, so you might as well get this too. The next unlock that I'm going to talk about is Disruption Shield. Now, I actually made a full video on Disruption Shield very recently, and I will link it in the description below. If I haven't done, then just leave a comment to remind me and I will do it. I usually do forget these things. That being said, Disruption Shield is an incredible ability that I put off getting for way too long. It will block an instance of damage when you activate it. Now, to get Disruption Shield, what you're going to want to do is the Livid Farm minigame and have access to the Lunar Spellbook as well. That being said, you don't actually need to do the minigame. You can buy Livid Plants from the Traveling Merchant whenever they're available and just use those to consume them and get the Livid Farm points that you would need for Disruption Shield. To unlock Disruption Shield, you will need a total of 290,000 produce, which is a lot. It is a lot, but it will take some time, but it is absolutely worth it. Unlocking this will also unlock a ton of other rewards from below that tier, so you're still spending a lot of time unlocking a lot of other stuff too. However, Disruption Shield, as I mentioned in the other video, which I will link below, is incredible. It is absolutely great. It can save your life in a ton of situations, and any PvMer will get a lot of use out of it. It is an instant cast ability, which can be used as an emergency panic button in a lot of situations, but also it can be used in a lot of places to just get through mechanics nice and easily. You can use it to block things like the Telos So Much Power. You can use it to block like rocks and stuff at Raksha. But not only that, you can also use it to increase your DPS output as well. All of this is mentioned in that video, so that's probably the best way to go with it. And I'm not going to spend a ton more time on this. But Disruption Shield is incredible. You absolutely do want to have it. And if you don't, then work towards getting it and add it to your keybinds because it is definitely worth it. Next up is a question that I get asked a hell of a lot on stream all the time. Is Magma Tempest worth it? I think yes, to be honest, and this is why it's in this video. Magma Tempest is an AoE, area of effect, bleed, or damage over time ability that you can use on magic. You can target this on the floor, or you can target it on an actual NPC, and it will drop a rain of fire, doing damage over time in an area to all the NPCs in that zone. Magma Tempest is obtained by killing Zook or buying it on the Grand Exchange, of course, for a pretty hefty price. The price is why a lot of people question if Magma Tempest is actually worth it. Personally, I get a lot of use out of this in places like Elite Dungeons. I do a lot of Elite Dungeons and Magma Tempest is very useful there. A while ago, I did a video talking about Elite Dungeon 4 and how you can still make a lot of money from actually running the dungeon because of the slivers that you can get. Clearing the dungeon does take quite a bit of time though. Magma Tempest is incredible in this dungeon. It makes clearing it out so much faster. I literally saved so much time when I started using this, a lot more than I was initially. That being said, it also has a lot of uses in all situations. You can use Magma Tempest through all of the Elite Dungeons to help clear out mobs there too. It absolutely will improve your run times in all of the dungeons, and it is also one of the strongest basic abilities you have outside of a Sunshine rotation. It is super useful for Slayer tasks, as you can imagine, being AoE, and it is incredibly useful in just any really combat encounter whatsoever. You can cast it before the target is actually targetable, meaning you can actually start a fight and pre-cast it along with your Sunshine as well, so you can get a bit of extra damage starting out. Overall, Magma Tempest is a great ability to unlock. It is very expensive, and it probably is going to be one of your later upgrades for Magic, but if you haven't got this yet and you're kind of on the fence whether you want to get it or not, or whether you didn't just really assumed it wasn't really worth it at all, then hey, I personally think that Magma Tempest is really good and is definitely worth the price tag. Next up, I'm going to be talking about something very specific to the Barricade ability, and this is the Malatops perk. Now, the Malatops perk is something that you can get by keeping a Malatops on your Anachronia dinosaur farm. What it is going to do is increase the duration of Barricade by 1.8 seconds per tier. This is kind of like having a turtling perk, but it also applies to your defender. So, a defender when you use Barricade only has half of the duration, meaning you get a very short Barricade out of it. Combining that with a Turtling 4 perk on the actual defender, plus having the Malatops perk in your Anachronia dinosaur farm at the second tier, getting an extra 3.6 seconds is going to increase the duration of that by a long time. It is a super useful perk to get. It does require you having level 117 farming, so it's not an easy thing to unlock in terms of time, but once you've got it, then you can take advantage of this, and it is definitely worth it. I know that a lot of people would recommend having the Malatops perk as well as turtling on a defender for doing things like high Enraged Telos. It makes things like that a lot easier, and in all honesty, I would probably suggest, even if you could, using this for something like Carapac hard mode, or just in general having that passive effect there is absolutely worth it. This was a perk that I worked towards getting for a long time, and I can tell you that it is definitely useful in a lot of situations. This will also be incredibly useful for any new boss releases where you may want to use Barricade to deal with any mechanics that people haven't quite figured out yet. But hey, having a longer duration Barricade, there's literally no reason not to have this. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't have known about this perk. When I've mentioned it on stream quite a lot, people are like, wait, what does that even do? What do you mean? And even in game and stuff, I know for a fact that people just don't really know about the Malatops perk. It is definitely worth your time. It is definitely worth the leveling of 117 farming. You're going to get a longer duration Barricade out of it. It's useful. It's super, super useful. Alright, and that brings us to the end of this one, where I wanted to talk about 5 perks that would help you guys out if you haven't already got them in game, or some that aren't exactly the most common. For example, the Malatops one. Let me know in the comments, did you guys know about this one or not? I'm sure plenty of you did, but I'm sure many of you also didn't. I'm aware that Animate, Dead, and Smoke Cloud are probably a bit more common than the other ones as well. However, I know plenty of people still don't use Smoke Cloud, so get on it if you don't already. But if you did enjoy the video, guys, if you found anything useful in here at all, then make sure to leave a like on the video. It will help out the video a lot, so it is always very much appreciated. Do check that you are subscribed as well, and anybody who does want to support the channel that bit extra, you can join as a channel member by clicking the join button by the subscribe button. Channel members, your names will be on screen as always. Your extra support is incredibly appreciated. Thank you all so much for helping me keep this as a full-time job. It is incredible. Thank you. I appreciate it. Other than that though, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys.